Where does head coach Pete Carroll feel this team is after 7 weeks in the regular season? Plus, what is the identity of this team? That plus more coming up on Tuesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for October 21st, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, we appreciate both. The show grows each and every day because of your support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. So we shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up on Twitter as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you, 707-654-4693. As you can imagine, we got tons of feedback based off the game on Sunday and the show on Monday. We'll try to get as many calls and texts in as possible. Even got a tweet. First-time corresponder, long-time listener, hit me up by way of Twitter, so we'll get that message in as well. So multiple ways to get a hold of the show. We'll hear from you coming up, segment number 3. Segment number 2, we'll talk about something we talked about with this team for the last handful of years, and that is what is the identity of this team? What is it supposed to be? What does Pete Carroll envision it being? And where is it right now in this stage of the game? We'll talk about that coming up in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day, including hearing from head coach Pete Carroll as we met with him at the Intermountain Health Performance Center on Monday. We'll jump into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I'll tell you more about them later on in the show, but off top, let's hear a couple sound bites from head coach Pete Carroll, and the first one is just about the 7 weeks of the regular season. The Raiders are 2-5. They've been blown out 3 times so far by hands of the Commanders, by hands of the Colts, and obviously most lately the Kansas City Chiefs. So what has surprised or stood out to Pete Carroll the most about the first 7 weeks of the season?
Yeah, I'm surprised that we're not farther along than we are. I thought we would be, and I anticipated being farther along and being cleaner with our game. What I'm trying to show you is that we can play really balanced football, meaning that all 3 phases can do their part and give us a chance to play the game where we're not giving the game away. And early on, we were turning the ball over like crazy, and kicking game was struggling, and defense was kind of holding it together for us, it seemed. And so the kicking game has come back around. A couple guys have been switched around, moved around. I think Tom did a nice job adjusting, and the last couple of games have been very solid. You kind of don't even want to know they're out there, and every once in a while they make a play, and that's kind of taken place. And defensively was different yesterday. We really missed Max's dynamic play, the things that he does. That was obvious to me, but that's coming along. And offensively now we've settled down, given the football up, and so we need to kind of get going again and get moving it and get productive. Yesterday was a mess of making first downs, and they did a great job on us. I really looked at we missed some guys out there, and Jacoby was really important to us, not having him, and the fact that we were so close to getting Brock back. We've played without Brock for almost a month now. I don't know how many games he missed. He missed three games. It seems like forever, and he's such a central figure in our offense. To have him coming back will just seem different. I think everything about it will look different, and we're counting on that.
So it's not the first time he's referenced being surprised at where they are right now. He really looked at this roster, looked at this team, and thought that they were going to be better than what the overall product is. And I'll say I think a lot of that has to do also with the depth. I know when I looked at the roster and when we all talked about it during training camp and leading up to the regular season, we all talked about the talent that this team has. I thought that they had a lot of top-end talent, but not a lot of talent as far as depth goes. And I think that that's coming back to rear its ugly head. And a lot of that also has to do with the turnover that this team has had when it comes to the coaching staff. Every single year, new head coach. Every single year, new GM. You can't constantly build up a lot of depth if that's always happening. Now, again, I've been talking about, and I talked about it on Monday's show, that I think that there's going to be some changes coming, following the bye week. I don't know where that comes from, but I do think that there's going to be some changes coming. None of that means that head coach Pete Carroll is not going to be around or he's going to be done after 1 year. I just don't think that's a healthy way to live for this organization. They've done that, gone down that road too many times, and clearly it is not working out very well. So also, what is Pete Carroll trying to get accomplished? What does the bye week mean for him? This is the first time that we've experienced head coach Pete Carroll in a bye week with the Raiders. So what is he looking to get accomplished? Here he is.
Big self-scouting opportunity for us. Big chance to make sure that we know what our opponents are seeing and to tweak and adjust and be creative with how we do that. That's what this time is always for. Chance to take a look at some young guys to give them a better shot in a couple of days that we practice with them, just a better chance to show us where they fit or how far they've come and can they help us. So it's all pretty much the normal stuff, but that's what we're focusing on.
So you heard him mention that, talking about some young guys, try to get some extra practice in with them for the time that they have with them. And it kind of caught my attention when he said that. And then we got a media advisory a little bit later on in the day where they are practicing. As a matter of fact, today, starting at 11:30 a.m., video and photography will be open for the early portion of practice, which is just stretching and individual drills. Then the locker room is going to be open following practice, 12:45 to 1:30. Now, it doesn't sound like it's going to be some long extended practice, but with the locker room open to the media, that is pretty interesting as far as I'm concerned, that they will be in practice coming up Tuesday, today, and they'll also be practicing on Wednesday for a limited amount of time. So they're definitely not just saying, all right, football's over until next week. They're definitely going to get some work in, and I do expect to see and hear a lot of the young dudes at least get some burn in the next couple of days. So I asked the question. We talked about it on Monday's show, and you'll hear head coach Pete Carroll refer to it. I talked about Geno getting sat down, JPJ getting sat down, and a couple of others. So any personnel changes does he expect following the bye?
We'll see. The competition is on, and we're not through thinking that way about opportunities for guys. I thought it was right to get G out, and Kenny needs to get some snaps. Right off the bat, he screwed it up and missed the freaking first snap. But and he just needs some playtime in case we need to call on him, so he feels comfortable jumping in. Darian, I'm always looking for chances to get him out there and get him playing. So that's good. We'll continue to do that. There's guys up front on the offensive line and the defensive line that we would love to get some playtime to. We stuck a couple guys in there just to get a couple snaps. At the end, they just need to be on the field. So we're going to continue to push that way.
Head coach Pete Carroll right there, talking about competition is still wide open. And right, as much as I believe the competition is there, it seems like the competition is more heavy for certain players in certain positions than others, right? And obviously, Geno Smith is not going to be sat down anytime soon. He talked about getting him out of the game on Sunday just to get Kenny Pickett some reps, and you heard how disgusted he was with Kenny Pickett when he fumbled the first snap that he even took, right? And that's something that, you can't have that. You go into the game, you have to be able to at least secure the ball. That is your number one job, making sure you secure the ball. Now when Aiden O'Connell comes back, he did mention in his press conference that he's getting closer and closer, him and Lonnie Johnson Jr., to returning. So maybe the competition opens up a little bit when Aiden returns. I know a lot of people would like to see him out there. I asked Lincoln Kennedy and Amber Theo Harris on the Raiders Squad show on Monday, do you expect to see or would you like to see any Kenny Pickett? And they both said, I'd actually like to see Aiden O'Connell before I see Kenny Pickett. I don't disagree with that. I just think that there needs to be some kind of fire behind these guys. Geno's obviously playing very tentative right now, tentative or whatever the word is. Just he's kind of, he's not, I don't want to say playing scared, but he's just very guarded. That's the better way to word it. He's just very guarded at this stage of the game, and he just needs to go out there and let it rip and play. And if you're going to run. If you're not going to run, don't throw the ball. But don't start to run, stop, start to run, stop. Like, don't do that. Don't be, in between. And that's what he was multiple times on Sunday. So he can't do that. I think competition is healthy for all players and all positions, and I just don't think that it's been competition for everyone, if you know what I mean, so far throughout, camp and everything. It hasn't been there for everyone. I'd like to see more guys competing for spots, and if a young guy beats a older guy out, so be it. Let them go out there and get the burn. But again, it just seems like certain positions have had more competition than others. But we'll talk about the identity of the silver and black. What was it supposed to be according to head coach Pete Carroll, and what do we think it is at this stage of the game? As a former Super Bowl champ and current national radio host Chris Canty actually questioned the identity of the Raiders on Monday on his ESPN radio show on Sportsmanlike. We'll hear from him. We'll hear from head coach Pete Carroll, and we'll talk about what the potential identity of this team is. We'll do that coming up in segment number 2, today's Locked On Raiders podcast.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
I also want to tell you about Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes, they sweat all the details. Mazda, they bring the same attention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to great controls, Mazda has it all. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence throughout almost any season. Like the players, Mazda sweats every detail. When you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to get into the identity of the Raiders, where they are right now through week 7. And I think that we had plenty of different ideas of what the identity of this team was going to be before any games got played. And I think I have a good idea of what they want. They just haven't been able to execute it as of yet. When you hear head coach Pete Carroll is the head coach, when you hear Chip Kelly is the guy they bring in, when they go and draft Ashton Genty at number 6 overall, you feel like, okay, what they did in Seattle is what you're going to see them do with the Raiders. They're going to have a heavy dose of the run game, right? They're going to have a really strong defense, and they're going to have complementary quarterback play. And, oh, by the way, they make the trade for Geno Smith to have better than complementary quarterback play, right? Complementary quarterback play is what we all expected last year under head coach Antonio Pierce. So when they go and make the move for Geno Smith, we all feel like, at least I do, okay, now they've made an upgrade at the quarterback position. Obviously, they haven't got the return of investment that they expected when they traded a third-round pick for Geno and also gave him a contract extension. But this stood out to me from Chris Canty on Sportsmanlike on ESPN Radio on Monday when he really questioned the identity of the silver and black. Here's what Chris Canty had to say.
If you're the Raiders, where do you go as a franchise from here? It's clear that whatever Pete Carroll is selling, the locker room ain't buying. So when it comes to trying to establish the foundation for sustained success, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that is. I don't have any semblance of how the Las Vegas Raiders are trying to win football games. When you watch the Raiders play, because some teams try to run the football, some teams try to use the short passing game, West Coast offense, some teams are in the vertical passing game, some teams are going to be led by their defense. How are they trying to win games?
So hearing what Chris Canty had to say, I wanted to make sure that I asked Pete Carroll about the identity of the team, where he thought they were going to be and when they are right now through week 7. So here's my question, and here's Pete Carroll's answer about the identity of the team.
Have you been able to identify kind of what this team's identity is right now through 7 games compared to what you wanted it to be?
Last week, I liked the balance that we showed in the playing off of one another. I thought that was really clear, and we went into this game knowing that we would at least have to do that to play a good, effective game. And special teams, we didn't give the ball up on offense. Those were factors that if you do that, you're going to get beat by these guys. And so it's there for us. And I just hope we get our guys back so that we can utilize those guys to make our offense whole. And without Max, defense was different too. And so that's just the way I see it. I can't deny saying that.
So you hear the breakdown from Pete Carroll and talk about playing a balanced style of ball, which makes sense. Right? I mean, again, I don't think that anyone wants to see Geno Smith throw the ball 40 times or any quarterback. I don't really think that that's a good recipe for success. You want to see a heavy dose of the ground game. But Amber Theo-Harris brought up a great point on the Raiders Squad show on Monday. She said, Q, if I told you that the Raiders are going to go into any game down Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, how do you think that they were going to, be really successful offensively? And, myself, Lincoln, everyone said, well, a heavy dose of Ashton Genty. Well, that didn't happen. Even in the scripted plays, that didn't happen with the Raiders. They got the ball first. So it's not like they were losing the game and they had to go and abandon the run immediately. They gave Ashton Genty the ball on the first carry, right? The first play of the game. And then that was it. Really, they went away from him. It was all passing the rest of the way. And we all know there wasn't much when it came to the rest of the way. I mean, he ended the game with 6 carries. So to me, if you draft the running back, number 6 overall, you've got to let that running back be your workhorse. Now, this is part of the conversation that we had in the draft process when we were talking about, do the Raiders have the offensive line to maximize the skill set of Ashton Genty? Remember, we went back and forth on that. And even though I'm still fully on board with getting Ashton Genty, I thought it made sense because he's a big-time playmaker, and you need as many big-time playmakers on this team as possible. You're seeing that they don't have the offensive line to maximize his efforts, and they're not trying to maximize his efforts, right? They've been talking about for weeks trying to ease him into the regular season and not give him too many carries and try to ease his workload in, and that's not who he is, right? I mean, I've been getting mad at media members for asking him every time he has a career high in carries, oh, man, you had 23 carries. How does your body feel? Like, what do you mean? Right? This dude is a guy who carries the rock. This is a guy who gets better as the game goes along. So how does he only carry the rock 6 times? And I understand that the game clearly got away from the Raiders pretty quickly. So, there wasn't going to be a heavy dose of Ashton Genty. But how was that not the plan going in? And so to me, it says, well, smash mouth football, strong defense, and complimentary quarterback play maybe is not the identity. Maybe Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly aren't on the same page. And that is, I think, what needs to happen during the bye week. Like, we talked about what kind of changes. They can make some personnel changes, but the fact of the matter is the depth is not very deep. So you can say that, hey, you're going to make a bunch of changes, but who are you going to change to, right? And I do believe that we will see some tweaks here and there, but I don't think there could be some massive changes. There's not all of a sudden like a shed out back where they're going to go and pluck out an all-pro left tackle, all-pro right tackle, all-pro wide receiver. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to do that. You have who you have. Pete Carroll said that before. But somehow, some way, at least offensively, if you want to talk about the identity on the offensive side of things, him and Chip Kelly have to be on the same page. I don't know if they're seeing eye to eye. I'm not saying they're not seeing eye to eye, but it doesn't reflect on what I believe Pete Carroll wants his team to be, what we're seeing with the play calling. It just doesn't feel like that. And as Amber pointed out, Chip Kelly has proven in college to be a really good offensive coordinator. He hasn't proven himself yet in the NFL, even though I do think that he's a sharp football mind. And I was very excited about him being the offensive coordinator because I thought, okay, no more predictability, right? No more, being able to say, all right, this is what the Raiders are going to do on first down. Here they go on second down. This is what they'll do. Like, there's no more of that, right? Because of the creativity that he provides, and he's going to put these players in position to succeed, do what they do best as opposed to just running his scheme. But it's just hard to see exactly, the rhyme and reason to what they're doing, and if this is the game plan that he wants to run or this is the game plan he feels like he's forced to run based off of what's going on with the personnel. And as Kirk Morrison pointed out on my radio show on Monday, the Raiders' offense has been compromised since week 1, since Brock Bowers went down, and he's number 1. He's weapon number 1. And obviously, Jacoby Myers is weapon number 2. So when 1 and 2 both go down, then you automatically should default to number 3, which is Ashton Genty, and we didn't see that on that opening drive. We just didn't. We saw him have 1 run, right? And it's like, okay, that was a successful run, 3 or 4 yards. I mean, I think with his first 4 carries he was averaging about 4.5 yards per carry, which is great, but he only ended up with 6 touches the whole game. Again, got away from him really quickly, so I get it, but that first drive wasn't. That first drive could have been a heavy dose of Ashton Genty. I just think that they're not quite on the same page with what they're trying to get accomplished. And another side note, when you're talking about any kind of changes that could be made the bye week, Tyler Lockett, former Seattle Seahawk, he requested his release from the Tennessee Titans. They granted that, so he's out on the open market, according to Adam Schefter. I don't think anybody is going to be in a rush to sign Tyler Lockett, but based off the fact that Jacoby Myers is a little bit banged up and compromised, it was said by Pete Carroll on Monday that he expects Brock and Jacoby to be back after the bye week, which is a good sign. But if anything happens, if any moves are made, could you see Tyler Lockett be brought in, right, by Pete Carroll and John Spytek? Could you see Jacoby moved? Again, I just feel like with that trade deadline looming, we definitely have to keep our eyes and ears open. I don't want to see Jacoby traded. I don't want to see Jackson Powers-Johnson traded. I don't really think there's anyone that the Raiders have on the roster that they should be trading and shipping out. I'm not saying that they're not going to, and I know teams are going to be calling, right? But that's just the reality of it. I don't think that as many people pound the table and say, hey, you just got to put JPJ back at center. I think that ship has sailed, at least with this staff. I don't think that they're doing that, right? And I do think that he's the second best offensive lineman on that offensive line outside of Colton Miller. Colton Miller's not playing. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but that's just something to kind of pay attention to. Just keep in the back of your mind. Tyler Lockett is no longer a part of the Tennessee Titans, and obviously he has a long history with head coach Pete Carroll. So I would not be surprised to see them acquire him at some stage of the game, especially if they make a move and trade someone out, and then they need to bring someone in to fill that void. But what's on your mind? Your calls and texts will close out the show. 707-654-4693. We hear from you next. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that is FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and, well, I mean, it feels like it's almost at the midway point. FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel gives you so many ways to play. Parlays, player props. You can even follow the live games and the live lines during the games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. So you could be a casual fan or just love diving into the stats. FanDuel makes the game day experience that much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and get started. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. You want to chime in another way, you could also hit us up by way of Twitter, at your boy Q254, or at Ari Produces, and we'll try our best to get your feedback into the show, just like Coach Addy58 did on Twitter, at Coach Addy58. Says, hey, Q, huge fan of the Locked On Raiders podcast. My buddy, Raider Educator, turned me on to the show. I'm 53 years old, a lifelong fan, former season ticket holder, and former high school football coach. So watching what is happening with this organization is an absolute travesty. You build a team from the inside out, and we have done nothing to solidify the offensive line and defensive line. We had the second most cap space along with 11 draft picks, and this team may be worse than the 2006 Raiders, which was the worst I had ever seen. I can't even explain how disappointed I am in Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, and Patrick Graham. Losing is one thing, but being embarrassed 3 times already this season with no adjustments is unacceptable. The next 10 weeks is audition season to see what we have in young players on the roster, and as hard as it might be, also a time to make difficult veteran trades. Thanks for your time, Q. Tennessee Raider right there. Again, at Coach Addy58 on Twitter. Thanks so much for that. I appreciate it. And yeah, that was the thing, man. That's what I was talking about on Monday's show. I really just can't believe the style in which the Raiders are getting beat, right? 3 blowouts already. That's just wild. And to see what happened with the Chargers, that Monday Night Football game where they lose 20-9. I mean, look, again, I think a lot of us expected that loss, right? And just kind of looked at it as, hey, the Chargers are very much rested. The Raiders are not. They're coming off of, a shorter week and all this other stuff and had to travel and, going from New England back to the West Coast. So there was a lot that went against it. It was early in the season, and the Chargers looked really good. So I don't really get too upset about that one. But the next 3 losses, man, the blowout losses, Washington, Indy, and obviously the Chiefs, man. The Chiefs, they called off the dogs. It could have been worse than the 31-0. That's been really bad. They've got to find a way to make some adjustments. It's definitely audition season. We'll see what the Raiders do. You heard what head coach Pete Carroll had to say about personnel. The thing is that they've got to stick with the head coach for sure. The head coach can't go anywhere. I'm assuming that the defensive coordinator is not going to go anywhere. I believe the OC, Chip Kelly, is there for the long haul too. But they, like I said in segment number 2, they got to get on the same page. And I don't know if they're quite on the same page as of right now. Feels like what I envision Pete Carroll's team looking like from an offensive standpoint is not quite what we're seeing. So I would like to see them get on the same page, or at least make it look like they have the identity of the team that we all thought they had a chance to be. But thanks so much for that. I do appreciate it. And obviously an emphasis on the offensive line is a must. That thing has got to be built up. You're going to have the identity that we think that you're going to have. That offensive line has got to be solid. It's got to be a bully like you had not too long ago when you had car insurance. That was a really good offensive line. The Raiders haven't had that since John Gruden broke it down and started selling off pieces and trading off pieces to try to get some defensive players and other guys added to the mix. So thanks so much for the tweet. It's great to hear from you. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from JD from the 909. He's calling to reflect back on the loss to the Chiefs and ask about the bleeding and when it'll end. It's JD from the 909.
Yo, what up, Q? It's JD 909. Just calling about that game that happened yesterday. Did some reflecting all yesterday, today, man. I'm just, where do I even begin? It's like, sheesh. When's the bleeding ever gonna stop, man, for this team? Been struggling for the last 22 years. Man, this has to be man, it's only October. It is straight dumpster fire. Pete has them playing like bunch of like Pop Warner kids, man. It's like, man, when Pete came, I thought for sure we were gonna get stuff turned around, man. Just losing. Man, this is looking even more pathetic, man, these losses. I know you keep on saying, like, we had 3 blowout losses, man, but I count 4 with that Chargers loss, man. That was probably the first blowout loss of the season. Man, and then we got all those. Man, I'm just lost for words. I just have no motivation for this team going forward, especially with Pete, man. I just feel like that was just the worst signing that we could have just gotten. Like, who were the other options for head coaches other than Pete Carroll, man? Like, I know there's Ben Johnson, and, like, we didn't get him, but, like, who else was there? It's like, Pete could not have been the only other option. It's like, come on, man, we're going to put our trust in a freaking 74-year-old senior citizen. Like, man, he's looking like he's, has Alzheimer's, man, doesn't know what is going on, man. I can't stand this BS, man. I'm over this experience, man. Just fire the whole staff, man. I'm just done with this BS, man. This is sad, man. I'm out, Q. Love what you do. Peace.
And it just escalated from there. JD from the 909 right there. Call started out kind of calm, and then I could tell you were just getting a little bit more fired up and frustrated and upset, and I don't blame you, right? I mean, it's hard to watch this team and see what they're doing and feel like, oh, here's a silver lining. Oh, it's going to be all good. And it's easy to be patient. Like Kirk Morrison was on my radio show on Monday, and he said it's just going to take patience. And like I told him, it's hard to tell a Raider fan to be patient, right? I mean, the staff, Pete Carroll could tell you to be patient. He's only been with the team 7 games. John Spytek could tell you to be patient because he's only been with the team a handful of months, right? You know, there's some players. Geno Smith could tell you to be patient. He's only played 7 games with the Raiders. But Raider Nation has been, to your point, right, 20-plus years of losing, right? And the Raiders are on, staff 4 since they've been in Vegas? Since I've been in Vegas, right? I got here in 2021. John Gruden was the head coach. Then Rich Bisaccia was the interim coach. Then Josh McDaniels was the head coach. Then Antonio Pierce was the interim coach. Then Antonio Pierce was the head coach. And now it's Pete Carroll. Like, that's way too much turnover since 2021, right? And so with that situation there, it's just it's rough, man. And it's easy for anyone to say, you know, like, what in the world's going on, right? So it's hard for Pete Carroll to sell anything to make the fan base feel better, right? Turnover, that's been a lot of the problem, and the turnover's got to stop. It really has. The Raiders have to choose the direction that they're going, choose an identity that they're going to have, and they have to stick with that and build that thing up and just stick to their guns and call it a day. It's going to be some rough times, but they're going to have to stick to it and make it happen. It's just what it's going to have to be, right? So Pete Carroll's going to be around at least for the next couple of years, I do believe, unless it just goes really south really quickly. But then again, you're going back to the same old turnover machine. You just can't keep being that. But thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate hearing from you. Text from Jeffrey in El Paso. It says, yo, Q, absolutely an embarrassment of a performance, if you can even call it a performance. Felt like only special teams showed up for returns and punts. Lost for words with this season. Never expected this. But anyway, still looking forward to November and watching the Raiders whoop on the Cowboys. Thanks for all that you do to Raider Nation. The podcast is a safe place, LOL. That's Jeffrey in El Paso. Obviously, him being in El Paso, there's a lot of Cowboy fans, and so he's looking forward to that Monday Night Football game. And I'll tell you, man, I thought early in the season that they had a good puncher's chance against the Cowboys. The Cowboys are putting up a lot of points. Dak Prescott is getting a lot of props for what he's doing at the quarterback position. Brian Schottenheimer's got them playing offense at a very high level. Defense, not so much, but that even got changed up and switched up a little bit on Sunday. So, yeah, man, I felt much better about that Cowboy game early in the season or before the season started than I do right now. So we'll see how that Monday Night Football game plays out, like you said, in November. But, man, that's Yeah, it's a struggle. It's a struggle, that's for sure. So appreciate you. And I'm glad you mentioned special teams. A.J. Cole did a great job flipping the field, pinning the Chiefs back deep. Any defense would love to have that kind of situation where the defense is or the offense is pinned so far back, and all they did is drive the length of the field multiple times for touchdowns, right? 9-minute drives, 11-minute drives, 9-minute drives. Like, man, what's going on? But they were able to make that happen. So thanks so much for the text. Do appreciate you. Just got time for a couple more. This call comes from Raider Eddie in Hollywood, Florida. He's calling to talk about the way he felt when he woke up Monday morning and how he became a Raider fan and questions, why am I still a fan of this team? Here he is, Raider Eddie in Hollywood, Florida.
Q, what's going on, man? It's Raider Eddie out of Hollywood, Florida. First listen every single day of the morning. I really appreciate what you and Ari do. And, man, you guys have got to have some resolve and really love what you do to endure this type of treatment from the franchise that we all love, huh? Man, I found myself waking up Monday morning after an ass whooping by our most hated rivals where we couldn't even put a field goal up on the board. And I'm sitting here thinking on the way to work, listening to your podcast, I know why I became a Raider fan. I know why I did. For me, it was Charles Woodson. I was into college football before I got into NFL. But I like Woodson so much, I said, wherever he goes, I'm a fan of that team. Now I'm a Raider for life. What I can't understand, and maybe I'm just going overboard and I'm doing too much, but why am I still a Raiders fan right now? I don't know if anyone else is feeling the same way. But that's just 31-0 is demoralizing. Makes me not want to watch football, bro. I don't want to watch Raiders football on Sundays, dude. Why? What for? I don't know, man. Someone, please, help me out. Talk me off the edge. Q, love your show. You and I have never met, but believe it or not, brother, I love you. I love what you do. You will always have a fan in me. Please don't stop. Ari, you're the madman behind the scenes. You may not get enough recognition, but no, Raider Nation does love and appreciate what you do, my brother. Just win, baby.
Raider Eddie, appreciate you. We got multiple Eddies here on the show. Thanks for the call. Man, I'm sure if we're being honest, don't feel bad for feeling that way. If we're being honest, I guarantee you're not the only one that's wondering, why am I still a fan of this team? What have they done for me in the last handful of years that has paid off my faithfulness or my fandom, or, why I keep coming back and why I keep watching? But, that's part of being a fan, right? And you want to be around. I think a lot of people want to be around for when it does get good. Man, I was there through all the bad times, right? Isn't that the story that we always hear? Man, I was there when the team was terrible. I was there when the team went through the Joe Bugle days. I was there when they went through Art Shell 2.0. I was there when they went through Josh McDaniels. I was there, you know what I mean? Like, how many times have we heard that story with multiple fan bases? So that's just kind of how it is. That's the other thing about the NFL. There's only 17 of these things guaranteed. So even though on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you might say, I'm not watching the game on Sunday. I'm not doing it. Thursday starts coming around, and you're like, oh, well, maybe. Friday, you start getting a little buzz. Saturday, you see some college football. Sunday, you're back in, right? There's only 17 of these bad boys. The NBA, which is getting started now, 82 of them, right? Baseball, it's still going on, right? The Fall Classic is going to get started on Friday between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. They play 162 of them bad boys, right? So it's like you can say, I'm done with the A's. I'm not going to watch them for a while. I can literally not watch a month of baseball and come back and still be like, all right, I know what's going on. Yeah, I don't care how many games I missed. I'm good. I'm in. You can't do that with the NFL, right? You can't do that with college football. There's only a handful of these games guaranteed, and that's how it keeps sucking you back in. So I understand the feeling. Like I said, I guarantee you're not the only one that feels that way. Just try to hang in there, brother. That's all I can tell you. Just try to hang in there, brother. Like my son always asks me, Dad, when's this Raiders team that's going to be really good that you keep telling me about? When are they going to show up? Just hang in there, son. Just keep on living, right? That's all I can tell him, right? That's all I can tell him because, man, I mean, look, it's been a long time, as we all know. So, yeah, 2003, they were in the Super Bowl, and they haven't been nowhere near the Super Bowl except for observers since then. So there's that. But thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. We'll close out with a quick text from Zeke in Sacramento. He says, hey, Q, can we now safely say Tyree Wilson is pretty much a bust? If not, pretty close to one. He'll have 1 or 2 games where he'll make a play or two, but more games where his name is not even mentioned. Sometimes I forget he's still on the team. That's how much he just makes no impact. All the upside in the world, but he just lacks that it factor. Another wasted first-round draft pick, I'm afraid. Zeke from Sacramento, and I don't think you're wrong. And I hate to say that. We all knew this was a big year for Tyree Wilson. We talked about it all offseason. He's going to play on the interior and on that edge. Just like you said, the it factor plays haven't been there, and that's unfortunate. Feels like it's another Cleve Farrell situation where he was definitely drafted way too high and just never panned out. I thought this was a guy that could make it work with his size and his length and what he was able to do at Tech, but it just hasn't panned out, hasn't worked out, and that's the reality of it. That's what the draft is. It's a crapshoot. Sometimes you think you know and you don't know. You always hear guys say, oh, well, a safe pick is the offensive lineman or the defensive lineman. Even those aren't safe picks. You can get the offensive lineman that's a sure shot, and all of a sudden he's not worth the salt. And you can get a defensive lineman that you think, oh, man, he's great at getting to the passer. You can stop the run. Man, this guy, he's got it all. He gets to the league, man, it's just a different ball game. The draft is never guaranteed. It feels like Tyree Wilson is just going to be a role player. He's not a guy I expect to see them pick up his fifth-year option at this stage of the game, and why would they? He really hasn't done anything to prove or earn that fifth-year option. But that's going to do it for today's show. That's all I got time for. The Raiders will have a practice today at the facility. We'll get to go over there. I won't get to catch up with the assistant coaches. They'll actually be talking between 2 and 2:45, and that's when my radio show is going on, Unnecessary Roughness on Raider Nation Radio 920. So I won't catch up with those guys, but we'll have an opportunity, hopefully, to get inside the Raiders locker room for a few minutes and, catch up with a couple of the players that are there in attendance. So I'll tell you all about that. Hopefully we'll hear from some of the players, and we'll continue to roll through the bye week as the Raiders are kind of licking their wounds and getting ready for Jacksonville, not this Sunday, but the Sunday after that. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.